In this review we're going to dig deep and we're going to look at a Soilmec SC-100 crawler crane with an SH-30 Hydromill, and the whole setup is used for excavating panels underground. The maker isn't known, and when we look at the parts in the box, they're all there, but there's no instructions at all. We'll start by assembling the model just as a crawler crane, and there's some packaging to remove, including some foam under the A-frame, and there's tape to take off the crawler tracks. Out of the box the model is strangely partially reeved, so the hooks are on but the boom is not fully joined up. The good news is that the connections are strong and positive, and they're secured by tiny nuts and bolts, and to help do those up you do get a couple of tools included with the model. So this part of it is high quality. Out of the box though there was some odd reeving and the boom tip wasn't properly reeved, so here we've re-reeved it so that the line runs properly. But in a sense that's only a minor issue. Much more odd is the reeving of the A-frame, and it's not really clear what they've tried to do here at all. So basically you have to disconnect what's done and then redo it properly to get a good looking job, and that takes about an hour. The crawler track frames have a lot of detail in the casting, and the tracks themselves are metal. The cab has got a plastic mirror and a windscreen wiper, and the interior detail is reasonable. There's a metal cab guard on the roof, the mesh walkways are very nice, and there are small graphics on the body. At the back the counterweight has the Soilmec name and logo nicely embossed, and there are metal handrails on the roof. The pulleys in the A-frame are not separate, they are solid blocks. The metal lattice boom sections are quite nice and they have internal bracing, and the pendant connections look good, but most of them are riveted, and that restricts the ability to configure the model somewhat. The metal hooks are nice, although the big one seems perhaps a little bit oversized, and again the pulleys inside it and the boom top are solid blocks. The big guide wheels for the hose and hydraulics are detailed, but they are mostly plastic. Perhaps the best part of the model is the SH-30 Hydromill. It's nicely detailed with cables and hoses, and it's mostly metal, with the cutting wheels being plastic. For the features we'll start with the crawler tracks, and out of the box they're narrow for transport, but you can widen them out for an operating mode, although they are a little bit stiff to open out. Another feature that is implemented on the model is working jacks, and these are used for raising the crane body if the tracks aren't fitted, but there doesn't seem to be an easy way to remove the track frames. The crawler tracks themselves won't roll on a smooth surface, but you can move them by hand, and they work nicely enough. Moving up from the tracks we can check the rotation, and it's smooth enough without any rocking. To alter the angle of the boom we put the key in the winch and wind away, but at a steep angle there's too much friction in the backstops to allow the boom to lower naturally. Unfortunately the backstops also restrict the angle at which you can raise the boom, so it can't achieve the same performance as the real crane. Once the boom is low enough then the friction in the backstops is overcome and you can lower it without intervention. But there's not enough rope on the drums to lower it all the way. We will move on and play crane driver with the hooks. The same winding key is used through holes in the bodywork, and actually you can achieve a nice smooth lowering and raising of the hook with the winding handle. The winch drums rely on friction as a brake, and that should be good enough to hold a moderate load. But this model is really about foundation engineering, and there are quite a few parts to put the Hydromill together. And the first thing we need to do is to adjust the boom by adding in an additional section and a new boom top. We also have to add in an additional section above the boom foot, and that's got a couple of winches for the big guide pulleys. As with all crawler crane models, if you're going to adjust the boom then the best thing to do is to prop out the A-frame, and that stops the A-frame reeving bouncing. Now we've fast forwarded and the boom sections are added, and we need to hang the guide pulleys from the boom top. So to do that we use the winch that's mounted on each side of the special boom section, and we can insert the winding key and pull off some of the rope. So here we have the first guide pulley reeved up and hanging. But because of the way the tie-off point is designed, it's virtually impossible to get the thread through the hole and tie it off, and that's because of the riveted connection above, so you have to improvise the tie-off to make it work. The next piece of the install is a guide frame at the bottom of the boom, and we start by threading in the pistons into the telescopic hangers. Once they're fed in place, you can then offer up the frame to the connection point at the bottom of the boom, and screws are provided to make the connection. That all works well enough for the first of the screws, but it's very difficult for the others because of the cab on one side. It's hard to get the screws in straight from the inside. The next job is to reeve up the Hydromill, and that's fairly straightforward, and there's a tying off point as well. After that, the hoses from the Hydromill get run over the guide pulleys, and you then plug them into the bottom, either to the frame, or the smaller hoses run to the crane. The guide frame does have the ability to telescope out a little bit, but because you can't raise the boom to a steep enough angle, you can't get the hanging Hydromill close enough to the frame. So in this respect, the model engineering is not as good as it could have been. A nice feature of the Hydromill is that it does have rotating cutter wheels, so maybe you can cut your way through your desktop. Soilmec sources its models directly from China, and this is probably the best one they've made yet. And like all foundation machines, it looks good. The only downsides are that it's not very well presented without instructions, and some of the model engineering could have been more carefully thought through. But overall it does look good, so if you accept the compromises, it's highly recommended.